Okay, so we talked about Jeffrey Epstein not that long ago, and at the end of that video, I told you guys, if there's something I haven't seen yet, send it to me. There's new material, new interviews, new angles. I will weigh in from a mortuary science perspective, if I can. And, well, I was sent something that I had not seen, and I was glad it was sent. I recently watched an interview on Megyn Kelly's podcast where Jeffrey Epstein's brother appeared as a guest. And during that interview, he shared autopsy photos of Jeffrey Epstein, including one of his neck area. I had never seen it before. I can't believe I've never seen it before. Why aren't we talking about this? Because when I saw it, I paused. I actually questioned if it was real, but his brother provided the photos, so they have to be real. They're real. Because I've been on real death scenes, just like Epstein's alleged cause of death. I understand what gravity does to a body. I understand what compression does to skin. And the markings on Jeffrey Epstein's body do not look textbook to me. And we are going to dive into that today. But quick note, quick disclaimer before we go any further. We are going to be talking about self-unaliving, and I cannot say the official S word on YouTube. You know, that S word? YouTube doesn't like it. They don't want me to say it. They would rather have me say unalive. So if I use some clever language, just know you know. You know what I mean? I know what I mean. We're good, right? But just know a little piece of my soul dies each time I have to censor myself. But anyways, moving on. This video isn't about who Jeffrey Epstein was. We all know who he was. I feel like that's already been explained. He was a total piece of that's putting it kindly. This video is about the night he died. I want the timing in one place, the medical findings in one place, and the procedural failures all in one place. And yes, of course, I'm going to give you my opinion. Because when you stack the timeline, the documentation, the fractures, and now this marking, it doesn't really feel clean to me. So let's rewind, all right? Cue the intro. Wow, 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 wow. If we're going to talk about the death of Jeffrey Epstein and what may or may not have happened, we cannot start with the morning he was found. I want to start weeks earlier because the ending of this story doesn't make sense unless you understand what led up to it. I think you need all of the alleged facts. July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is finally arrested and taken to the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. This isn't just a small town jail. This is a federal facility. And at this moment in time, he is one of the most high-profile inmates in the country. Every guard knows his name. Every inmate knows his charges. Every news outlet is watching. 2 weeks later, July 23rd, he's found on the floor of his cell with a strip of bedsheet around his neck. His cellmate at the time? Nicholas Tartaglione. Tartaglione. That's a good one. I don't know how to pronounce that, so Nicholas. He's a former police officer who is facing multiple murder charges. Sounds like a nice guy. Not. Anyways, this is who he was sharing a cell with. The official story is that Epstein attempted to unsubscribe from life, but Epstein says his roomie, the police officer, former police officer / murderer, attacked him. The police officer man, inmate, cellmate denies that, of course, because of course he does. And we don't really get clarity there, unfortunately. What we do know is that after that event happened, Epstein was placed on watch protocol. You know, that special kind of watch that starts with an S that I can't say on here. And this type of watch protocol in a federal facility is pretty serious. It means close observation, restrictions, monitoring. It means someone has already decided that you are at risk. But that doesn't last long for Mr. Epstein because 1 week later, he's taken off of that protocol. They're just like, he's fine now. Let's just take him off. And just like that, Jeffrey Epstein is returned to the special housing unit under one condition. He must have a cellmate, which tells you something. They still considered him at risk. He wasn't cleared as totally fine. He was cleared with supervision. So fast forward to August 9th. It's a Friday, the day before he dies. His assigned cellmate is released and no new cellmate is assigned. So now the man man who was considered at serious self-unsubscription from life just weeks prior, not even that long ago, is now alone. The last night that Jeffrey Epstein was alive, 2 guards were assigned to his unit, and according to federal prosecutors, they allegedly failed to conduct required 30-minute checks for about 8 hours. 8 hours in a locked facility. 8 hours in a high-profile housing unit. 8 hours where no one is physically verifying his condition. Then, the camera that would have captured the immediate area near his cell door, conveniently not functioning properly that night. And this is where people start saying, that's a lot of coincidences, because, right? Anyways, August 10th, around 6:30 in the morning, he is found unresponsive in his cell. CPR is initiated, he's transported to the hospital, and he's officially pronounced. So now we have a man who was previously on watch protocol, required to have a cellmate, left all alone, guards allegedly not checking on him for 8 hours, cameras that conveniently malfunctioned, and that's just the timeline. We haven't even looked at the body yet. Like all that, and we're not even there yet, but we're getting there right now. Because here's where the story takes a surprising turn. Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, is his legal next of kin, and he didn't find out from prison officials, from the medical examiner, from anybody official, really, that his brother had died. He found out from watching CNN, which is wild to me. Notifying the next of kin after a death is like death investigation 101. There's proper protocol, but it wasn't done here. So Mark, feeling something is amiss, something is off, he hires Dr. Michael Baden to observe the autopsy. Dr. Baden, if you don't know who he isn't just some internet doctor with a hot take. This was really interesting to read about. He's a forensic pathologist who has been involved in some of the most high-profile cases in modern American history. He's worked on cases connected to JFK, O.J. Simpson, George Floyd, Aaron Hernandez. He's served as chief medical examiner of New York City. He has decades of experience examining bodies and testifying in court. He was there to observe the autopsy of Jeffrey Epstein, and that matters because now you don't just have the Office of Chief Medical Examiner conducting the autopsy. You have an independent forensic pathologist watching and documenting what's being found on the body in real time. And what Dr. Baden publicly said afterward is what made this story explode, because it wasn't just about the fractures. He also stated he believed the time of death for Jeffrey Epstein to be about 4:30 in the morning, roughly 2 hours before he was reportedly found. And then there were the fractures. He noted 3 fractures in Epstein's neck. Not 1, 3. The left thyroid cartilage, the right thyroid cartilage, and the hyoid bone. And he stated that in his decades of reviewing jail suspension, catch my drift, he had never seen 3 fractures like that in what was ruled a self-unaliving. Now, the medical examiner's office stood firmly by their conclusion and stated that those types of fractures can be seen in both self-unaliving suspension and a manual compression. So now you have 2 experienced forensic professionals looking at the same neck and not agreeing. And that's before we even talk about the ligature mark itself. But wait, there's more. Unfortunately, I have been on more calls than I can count where someone made the final irreversible decision using this exact method that allegedly Jeffrey Epstein did. Again, you catch my drift when I'm trying to tell you. People in basements, closets, garages, outdoors, different temperatures, different materials. I have seen it over and over and over again. In fact, I had no idea how many people chose this method of goodbye until I worked corner calls. And there is one thing that is incredibly common in suspension cases like this. People almost always leave themselves a way to adjust the pressure. They kneel on their knees, they lean forward, they shift their weight into it. And that lean of the person is everything. You have to picture the gravity of the situation, literally, okay? When someone leans forward into that position, gravity pulls downward on the body and then upward on the material. You following me? The mark or the wound, right? It doesn't just sit straight across the middle of the neck. It tracks upward, it climbs, and it moves moves towards the point of suspension. Often you'll see it like angling up behind the ear, up toward the jawline, because the body is pulling against it. That upward movement is extremely common. That is what I've seen. That's what we see. I almost wish I could take my hands and like, I don't even know. Like, you would see it. When I look at that image that Jeffrey Epstein's brother provided in that interview, what stands out to me is that the marking appears more mid-neck and pretty much horizontal, right? It doesn't present with that strong upward tracking that I am used to seeing in cases where someone has leaned forward into a suspension point. There even appears to be what looks like a secondary pattern behind it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it looks that way. Almost like a layered compression. Now, could there be explanations for that? Sure. Bodies are complex and different materials behave differently, but based on my experience, if someone were positioned the way his brother described, because in the interview, he describes how Jeffrey Epstein's body was found. And just in case you missed that, I want to reiterate it really quickly. Jeffrey Epstein's buttocks was suspended from the ground when the guards walked in that morning. His feet were out in front of him and he had to be cut down. Again, I would expect to see more upward angulation from the photos, and I just don't see that here. And that's the part that makes me pause the most, because the body doesn't lie. People do. So now we need to talk about the CPR, circling back, because this part bothers me too. If someone has been without circulation for hours, and again, Dr. Baden is suggesting a possible earlier time of death, the body does not feel freshly collapsed. It cools. The skin changes, blood starts settling. The body starts doing what bodies do when they've been gone for a bit. And I'm sorry, but if you've ever been around a person who has clearly been deceased for a while, you know. You just know. You look at them and you know. So when I see photos of active compressions being performed on Jeffrey Epstein's body, and then it was photographed, like documented in the back of the ambulance, I have so many questions. So you cut him down and then you thought, let's publicly wheel him out of here. We got to document this. I mean, there was some intern in the back of an ambulance and they're like, hey, grab the camera. Do you see what I mean? It just seems so weird to me, because this death isn't some random person on the sidewalk who collapsed. This is supposed to be a locked federal facility. There are high profile inmates in there. This is supposed to be a controlled environment. If someone had been in the position that Jeffrey Epstein was found for a significant amount of time, there are going to be physical indicators that he is no longer with us. That's just physiology. That's not conspiracy. That's how bodies work. And then we're told he may have been gone for roughly hours before his body was discovered. So now I'm supposed to believe we have a potentially hours deceased individual cut down from suspension, placed on a gurney, active compression happening, and someone is also documenting it. That is not something the public is used to seeing. Is it impossible? No. Is it typical? Also no. But when you add that to everything else, the earlier incident, the removal from watch protocol, the cellmate being gone, the missing checks on the inmates, the camera malfunction, it doesn't calm the narrative, it makes it louder. I'm not saying I know exactly what happened in that cell, but I am saying that when I look at the totality of this medically, mechanically, procedurally, is that a word? Anyways, it does not feel clean. And then on top of everything, you're going to tell the public that a high-profile federal inmate died alone in his cell and there's no camera footage? We're talking about a federal facility, not a motel, not a storage unit, a locked, monitored housing unit. And yet the camera that would have captured direct activity directly outside of his cell, the one that would have shown who came and who went, who approached the door and who didn't, it wasn't functioning properly that night. Now, there were other cameras in the facility, cameras that showed the guard station, cameras that showed other angles, but the specific camera angle that would have given the clearest view of that tier, corrupted, gone, unavailable. And I need you to understand why that fuels speculation. Because if everything is exactly as it's always been presented, if this was just a straightforward case of a man unsubscribing in custody, then video would quiet the noise. Video would answer questions. Video would end most of the debate. But instead, we're told that the footage that would have mattered the most isn't usable. Is that impossible? No. Cameras malfunction, technology fails. But in a case piece already layered with missing everything, it just doesn't help anything. It doesn't settle anything. It adds another wrinkle. And I need to say this clearly. I'm not a medical examiner. I did not perform this autopsy. I am looking at a photo that was shared publicly, but I have seen a lot of these types of markings in my career. And when I look at this one, something about the way it presents feels different than what I'm used to seeing with a soft material like a sheet. Sheets are fabric. They have give to them. Even when they're twisted up, they don't usually leave a super sharp, almost layered looking compression unless something very specific is happening. And what catches my eye in this image is that it looks pronounced, almost patterned. There's that main band across the front and the middle, and then what almost looks like a secondary area or line behind it. Now, could that be from repositioning? Could that be from how high it was tied? I mean, again, bodies are complicated, but when I hear bed sheet and then I look at that marking, my brain doesn't immediately go, yep, that tracks. It just makes me look a little harder. I don't believe it. Before I wrap this up, I do want to say something that I've been thinking about. Mark Epstein is his legal next of kin, and Mark Epstein knows where his brother is buried. It's kind of secretive. There's no public record of cremation, which means technically, if he wanted to, Mark Epstein could request an additional autopsy. He could have another full forensic examination done. He could even have Dr. Baden oversee it again. That option exists. So I do find myself wondering, why hasn't that happened? Now, I'm not saying that means something sinister. Exhumations are expensive and they're emotional. They reopen wounds. There are very real reasons someone might not want to go through that, and I understand that. But when you publicly question the findings and you have the legal ability to pursue another examination, it's a fair thing for people to ask about. Nobody's asking it, so I guess I will. And I think this is where the bigger conversation comes in. I keep seeing talks of people saying, why are Americans still obsessed with this case? Why does this keep coming up? Because this Jeffrey Epstein case hits differently. This wasn't just a random criminal. This was someone connected to powerful, wealthy, well-known people. Names we recognize. Institutions we were taught to trust. And when someone like that dies in federal custody under layers and layers of weird circumstances, people don't just move on. For a lot of Americans, this felt like one of the first moments where they looked at the system and thought, wait, is everything as solid as we think it is? And whether you believe the official ruling or if you question it, the reason this case won't go away is because it feels unresolved. Coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. At some point, people stop calling it coincidence or random and they just start calling it strange, because it is strange. And that doesn't mean every theory online is correct, but it does mean the public isn't crazy for asking questions. So, if there are documents you've seen that I haven't, if there are details you think I should break down more, put them in the comments, because whether this was exactly as ruled or whether history eventually sees it differently, the mechanics matter. And right now, the mechanics don't feel good. I don't like it. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this autopsy photos. So I don't deal in rumors. I deal in bodies, and bodies tell stories. When I look at the timing, the markings, the fractures, the handling, it doesn't read simple to me. I have more questions than answers. Maybe one day we'll have every piece of this puzzle, and if more files drop, you already know I'll be back and we'll go through them together. But until then, I'll just keep looking at the science. So make sure you're subscribed, because if this case teaches us anything, it's that the details matter. And around here, we always read the details, and I don't believe in coincidences. I gypped you on mango kisses last week. Felt so bad about that. If you're new here, you get mango kisses. We talk about some deep topics on this channel, and to kind of lighten the mood a little bit before you leave, to hopefully send you on your way for a good week, I typically give you some mango kisses. If you don't know what a mango kiss is, a mango is the love of my life, and she has a very long tongue. They're magical kisses. I don't know if you knew that, but they're magical, so hold on. Okay, here we go. I know, I'm sorry. They missed you on Monday. Can you just, no, a nice kiss. Don't bite them. Just, no. Oh, what about a good one? And that's the way the mango rolls. Okay, you guys. Well, I love you. Let me know what you think below, but